Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Meantime, here is Tim Walz, because he is the governor of Minnesota. He met a little bit ago with Tom Homan, because Tom Homan is now on the ground in Minneapolis. He has essentially replaced Greg Bovino on the ground. Tom Homan, well-known, well-regarded, a former New York cop, somebody who has worked for 5 presidents. He was honored by Barack Obama. I love Tom. This guy is a straight shooter, as straight shooters go. No nonsense, Tom Homan. So he was dispatched to go over there to Minneapolis, bring some calm, but also meet with the leaders and say, hey, listen, you got to cooperate with us. So after the meeting, he meets with Jacob Frey, the mayor, and he also meets with Tim Walz, the governor. And after the meeting, this is what Tim Walz had to say. Here he is first talking about his phone call with Trump and sort of explaining his mindset.
I would characterize, along with the president, I think it was productive.
Yeah, so let's start with that call. I understand that you initiated it. Is that correct?
We asked for it a while back, and this was the time they came through. I got a early morning call from the president's chief of staff, who we have been communicating with regularly, several times a day, myself or my team speaking with Susie Wiles, and she said the president wants to speak with you, and they called back in to us, and we spoke for about 10 minutes. 10, 15 minutes.
Did the president make any firm commitments that the course of this immigration operation will change?
Well, I asked 2 things were clear. First of all, I asked that we have a fair and independent investigation into the murder of both Renee Good and Alex, and that we have to be able to do that. And he said, we'll look at that. We'll take a look at that. And I said, we just have to reduce these numbers. We started out with that. And he pledged that, look, I'm going to send Tom Homan in. We'll do things differently. He explained to me how he thought it was very successful in Louisiana, very successful in Louisville, which I shared with him, but ICE did not shoot anybody there, and the presence was much smaller and much more targeted, like they were doing actual ICE work. This is, as we've seen, massive numbers. So it was cordial. I think he understood this. I told him that this is unsustainable, and I said, quite honestly, no one wants this, and I hope that's true. No one wants this.
What about the investigation? I mean, you asked for him to allow state investigators into the fold regarding the deaths of Alex Preddy and Renee Macklin Good. What precisely did he say in
He said
response?
He would look into it, and he said, look into it. I hear you. We'll look into it.
And what if that doesn't happen?
Well, then we'll keep pushing. I mean, and I want to be very careful here. I don't want to, and one of the reasons that I am staying a little behind the scenes and working constantly on those calls is that part of this is about how you're viewed by this White House. I think the listeners here in Minnesota know that I'm somewhat of a lightning rod for this administration. I certainly don't want to be that, but I've had to be speaking up about the atrocities that we're seeing and pushing back. So at this point in time, the president certainly seemed earnest. He pledged to me that we would do this. As I said, we've been in communication over the weekend with his team pretty extensively. I'm understanding now that, and he said he would have Tom Homan in here, and we'll be in touch, I hope, later tonight. I'm understanding that Mr. Bovino and Kristi Noem are no longer going to be here. I would take that a step further. I would hope they're no longer in jobs because they've helped foster this. And we spoke a little bit, and I tried to make the case about Alex. I just spent a set-down hour with his colleagues.
And that was Tim Walz's assessment, the governor of Minnesota. Now here is President Trump talking about his discussions first with Governor Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey. He spoke with our own Sid Rosenberg on Sid and Friends, who, by the way, celebrated 10 great years at WABC today. Here is part of that conversation with Sid and the president.
But I had 2 very good talks. I had Jacob Frey and I had Governor Walz. And, I mean, they were They were great calls. So let's see how they report it. But they were very nice calls, very respectful.
So is there a possibility, President Trump, of some type of compromise? I read that some of the Guard will be leaving the state of Minnesota, some type of compromise to, I guess, make those guys feel like they're in charge, even though, God help us.
Yeah, well, we'll I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think so. What we need is their criminals. You know, they have criminals, and all I said, just give us your criminals. And if you give us the criminals, it all goes away. They're there to pick up murders. I don't know if you saw, but it was a couple of days ago announced that crime is the lowest in the history of our country, the recorded history of our country.
Wow.
That's a big statement. That's because of us. That's because we go into cities and towns. Usually we're embraced. Sometimes we're not. Chicago is like pulling teeth with Pritzker and with the mayor of Chicago, low IQ person. And usually we're embraced, but sometimes we're not. And when we're not, it just makes it harder.
And President Trump also spoke with Fox News. And here's what he had to say, because there's a report. Obviously, he came out tonight and he said, yes, we want to de-escalate the situation. I applaud President Trump for really trying to calm the flames, making some changes. It's a good thing because he said, I don't want to see Americans die on American streets. He doesn't want to see Alex Preddy die or Renee Good die. You could tell it really upsets him and should. I mean, it's a horrible thing what has happened to these American citizens. It's absolutely terrible. Obviously, we have to see if there's anybody to blame. But regardless, it is still a horrible situation. And here is President Trump on Fox saying, we're going to do some tweaks, but it's not an all-out change. Listen to the way he describes it.
Is this a pullback?
I don't think it's a pullback. It's a little bit of a change. Everybody in this room that has a business, you make little changes. Bovino's very good, but he's a pretty out there kind of a guy. And in some cases, that's good. Maybe it wasn't good here. But you have to understand, when I watch some of the people that I've been watching over the last few weeks, these are paid insurrectionists. These are paid agitators. These people aren't normal, like OG, that, they're incensed about anything. How do you get incensed when you go into a state and you're taking criminals out? You're taking monsters out, murderers. We had 11,888 murderers let into our country by other countries, by Biden with his open border stupid policy. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You talk about bad policy. Open borders where people were coming, so the whole world, the Congo, Venezuela, all over the world, they're letting people in from their prisons and they're feeding them into the United States. And they're murderers and they're drug dealers and they're everything else you can think of, every bad name you can think of. And they let them in by the millions. We closed the border. We have nobody coming into our country anymore.
And by the way, that record on the border and that record on crime truly is incredible. There's no doubt about it. 1,000%.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.